All right, what is going on, Ravens flock, and welcome back here again to another episode of the Ravens Way podcast. Joining me, as always, is Voss on this wonderful Thursday afternoon, and we have a guest from Baltimore Beatdown, Josh. Josh, how are we doing tonight, or this evening?
I'm like this morning for me, man. But yeah, I'm doing great.
Good. Appreciate you having you hop on with us. Usually we go live around 7 or so, but Thursday game. But I know it's tough to get up there and hop on. So very much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Definitely good to parlay again with you, Josh. So yeah, tough loss, week 10, big game tonight, condensed week. Let's start looking backwards before we look forwards. And Josh, give us some any takeaways you had from the offensive side of the ball from that disheartening loss to the Browns last week.
I mean, it's been on just about every major or even local news media outlets. Keaton Mitchell, man, just that lack of usage for him. Like, I understand, like I hear where John Harbaugh is coming from. Like, usually when you're milking a big lead in the second half, you call the plays that kind of milk the clock, so which kind of parlays more into Gus Edwards getting the ball more. But like when your team needed a spark, when you see these guys just weren't laying down and going away, like I don't care if you got to call up to Todd Monken, like, hey, bro, like let's get some plays for Keaton Mitchell here. Like I want to see 34 in the game more. I just feel like when they needed that spark, like they had that early spark on the first drive of the third quarter with OBJ, but like after that point, like I'm just kind of tired of the Ravens, like taking their foot off the gas and just like I don't care if you got to run up a score every week on 2007 Patriots stuff, like do what you got to do to put teams away for good so that you don't keep having these conversations about these blown fourth quarter leads because you'll be up by double digits the whole game.
Definitely. Yeah, I was looking at a chart the other night, and the Ravens have ran the most plays while up in the NFL this year. I think by a wide margin, by like at least 60 plays. And the second ranked team was Kansas City. So, and their EPA, and I'm not a huge EPA guy, but they had a negative EPA on that play. So it seems like in a lot of these second half losses, they go into a very conservative script, and it ends up biting them. And maybe the fix to that is, to your point, keep Mitchell more involved, getting that spark of the offense, just keep it going. I think another thing is they just got to keep pushing the ball downfield. I think they get a lot of these short game stuff working in the second half, and it's such a mirror to the first half where they're actually pushing the ball downfield and everything's looking a lot more well oiled. So tough loss, and you'd like to win that one. You really would, especially you're up 17-3 to start it off within like the first 10 minutes. But you got to lick your wounds now and move on.
Yeah, I think well said both points all around. I think it's hard to pinpoint a specific reason why the offense kind of sputtered there in the fourth quarter. I don't think it's a flaw necessarily in the offense. I do want to mention they are going up against the best defense in the entire NFL, Cleveland. I think after coming after this game, you can say they are the best. The Ravens are the second best. And they put up 24 points, so it wasn't like they got shut down. Sometimes I wonder if Lamar doesn't quite have that clutch gene that maybe has allowed some other players to play better under pressure. Any thoughts on that?
I do think he has that clutch gene. I mean, we're all going to point to the 2021, the Colts game. I mean, without Lamar Jackson, they have no snowball's chance in hell to come back in that game. And like when he's had the good supporting cast, which hasn't always been the case in Baltimore. He has, even when he hasn't, had the best supporting cast, he's shown that he can make those plays in crunch time. I mean, the Seattle game before it kind of got out of hand, like that whole let's go for it coach thing. Like you don't have that kind of confidence in a guy who doesn't have that clutch factor. Like I don't like keep referencing 2019 stuff. I'm saying he's shown throughout periods in his career where he has had that clutch factor. I mean, we should really consider ourselves fortunate that we have a quarterback that puts up these big leads all the time. I mean, just remember the dog days of Joe Flacco. Even before then, you got the Tony Banks in the Trent Dilfer era where you were begging for like 14 points a game. We got a guy that's I don't know his actual career statistics about as far as how many points the Ravens average per game, but it's a lot more than we've been used to. And so as far as the whole clutch factor thing, he hasn't had to do it as often as guys like Josh Allen and Mahomes. Mahomes has the best defense he's had since he's been in the league this year. Now their offense is like falling way behind, and so I just think it's kind of a double-edged sword in a bit. Like, yeah, like you like to see more of that from Lamar, but also like he hasn't had to do that nearly as often as other quarterbacks because he's put his team in position to where they've had these big leads. Yes, they've blown them over the past couple of years, but also like they wouldn't even like have been that close had it not been for Lamar. And it's just like sometimes you need other players to make those clutch plays, and clutch can't always be the quarterback. As much as you pay him to be that guy and you want him to be that guy all the time, it can't always be on him. You can't have your defense giving up 2 14-point leads in the fourth quarter. So
yeah, I think it's just the turnovers. I would point to the diarrhea game with where he came on fourth down and hit against that Cincy or Cleveland on Monday night or something.
Cleveland.
Right.
Yeah.
That to me, that's the most clutch he's been. It's just a lot of turnovers in the fourth quarter when the pressure's coming down. Maybe it's also part of protection issues, Jerry.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say he has a clutch game. Like to Josh's point, in 2021, they were down 2 scores almost through that first 8 weeks. They were down 2 scores, I would say 4 times maybe. And Lamar just crawled him back in the game. The Vikings game, the Colts game. I think the Chiefs game, they might have been down. I don't remember. But I just think a lot of times it comes down to, the protection is a point, to your point, Voss. I think that they really should start hard 6-7 man protectioning when it gets to those late drives because the Browns just started blitzing everybody, and they were kind of took a page out of Mike McDonald's book. Like they just started simming pressures, they started getting confusing the offense. So in order to calm the offense down, calm Lamar down, I think that's a fix that they should have going forward. But for the Lamar clutch gene thing, I think he's been fine. I just think that on the flip side, I think the defense really hasn't helped either. We were talking about a couple weeks ago when Static brought up that stat, Boss, about the defense. And, I mean, to the point of that stat, they really haven't, bought in a stop. And it was funny because last game they had a play. They had a play where Odafe always strips Deshaun Watson, and if just somebody picks up the ball, the whole referendum of, the 2 scores and the defense blowing is, kind of gone for at least this week. So, it's tough. It's tough the way Lamar has turned the ball over in the fourth quarter. I think it was 5 picks over the past 2 years of a fourth quarter play. But I just think it goes hand in hand. I think it's all. I can't put the blame on him directly.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It's more on the defensive side in this game, Josh. I don't know. Would you agree with that? It's more the defensive side for the Week 10 loss.
Yeah, for sure. And I was just going to piggyback off of Yuri's point. It's those late game protections, man. It seems like whenever they're playing the Browns or even you can point to every loss this year, or especially against Cleveland, against the Pittsburgh, where 5 is not enough against Alex Highsmith and T.J. Watt. 5 is not enough against Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith, especially when you already have a backup tackle in both of those games. So it's just you need even if it's just leaving Ricard on whoever is if it's T.J. Watt's side, leave Ricard on T.J. Watt's side. If it's Myles Garrett, leave Ricard on that side. You can't just assume that your 5 is going to block their 5 or their 6 or their 7 in those crucial moments late in the game. But yeah, boss, I do agree. It's more on the defense than the offense here in this particular past game.
And Bob, real quick, Bob. So how we were talking with Dan, and he said that the best game they looked protection wise was the Lions game. That's also the game they ran the most 12 personnel, and every other game they're running around 13%. So it's weird. The Lions aren't a great defensive line, and they're running a lot of 12 personnel and getting those protections out there. And Lamar had the most throwing yards he's had in the season so far in that game. And then you go to a really good defensive line, and you're still running 5-man protections, and you're kind of leaving, having Keaton Mitchell be that 6th-man guy who, to the point of wanting to get him more involved, there is a pass protection aspect to having him on the field, because you just can't have him on the field and have him run the football, because that's a pretty big tell, and teams will pick up on that. But it's tough. It is tough. It is tough. I want them to run more 12 personnel. I've been saying that for 8 weeks. And I'll just keep saying it until they do it.
Yeah, I could go either way on that. I mean, I think there's pluses and minuses to both, But anyway, let's flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. Josh, takeaways from started off obviously on a very positive note. Kyle Hamilton with that one of the plays of the year, and got worn down towards the end.
Yeah, I forgot who brought it up that the Ravens gonna have their some of the worst performances defensively when Kyle Hamilton balls out, 3-sack game and they lose to the Colts, and then he gets his first career pick six and they blow a lead to the Browns, and it was just sad, after that first quarter you're just like, there's no way they lose this game. You get those 2 touchdowns, one on offense, one on defense, but after that, the defense, you start seeing some cracks in the first half, they were bending but not breaking, like down red zone, forced 3 field goals, and you just had a feeling that it's time to put them away in the second half, but instead they kind of went the other way. And the Browns, to their credit, they never came off the run game. They were unrelenting on that thing. What's the best that you can do with backup tackles? Keep the ball on the ground, and that's exactly what they did for the most part. And it was really a gut check game for the Ravens defense in the second half, and they didn't really answer the call. I mean, how many times it's really demoralizing when you see guys getting the pile push for 5-10 extra yards, or you see guys going for the strip instead of securing a tackle, and you got guys like David Njoku just looking like Marshawn Lynch out there throwing dudes off. How about you secure the tackle and drag them down instead of just trying to claw at the ball and say about somebody's highlight reel? So it's just one of the poor tackling games, and then they really kind of let the Browns in the trenches really take over the game in the second half, and that's what they did.
Yeah, I think this was probably maybe the worst tackling game since they acquired Roquan. You had Geno missing tackles, you had Queen, and I know Marcus Williams took a lot of heat. Spencer put out a clip in some of his tackles, and I actually thought he did a decent job. Obviously, with that shoulder issue, Gordon from PFF put out his article while he was coming with just looking at some different numbers and what can you kind of trace these fourth quarter letdowns to. One of them he noticed was that the Ravens' pressure rate went up by 10 points, is a little bit below league average. And I think that speaks to they don't have that apex closer. They don't have that really – it's just the pass rush is predicated on scheme more than individual players. And it's a potential issue, I think.
I think Odafe could be that guy, though. I mean, he's over the past few weeks, he's kind of showing some of that clutch gene. Like I said, if either Madubuike or Calvin falls on that ball, we're talking about Odafe always trying to take that step and being that closer for the Ravens. It didn't happen. The ball happened to bounce back to Wyatt Teller, but over the past 4 games, he's had a sack in 3 of the last 4 games. Should have had one in Arizona. It would have been 4 straight. But I think since he's come back from the ankle injury, he's starting to show that because he was really kind of that to Yuri's point earlier. He was kind of that guy in 2021, his rookie year. He had that strip clutch forced fumble against the Chiefs, and he was making some clutch plays even in the Colts game for a sack. So I think he has that potential to be that guy. They a lot of people were hoping that David Ojabo would also kind of be that guy again this year. Not again, but to kind of start to take that next step. We probably won't see that, for him until next year at this point. Honestly, him and Tyus Bowser, I don't know if they're going to factor into this team at all this year. But like I said, you hate to whenever I write about it, I always say the Ravens are the most productive pass rush, but not necessarily always the most potent, just because they get sacks in bunches, but they don't have those TJ Watt bam game sacks, or those Myles Garrett bam drive ending sacks that when your defense really needed to stop, they came and got those stops. Now they've gotten plenty of stops this year, but it seems like sometimes in these closer games they just don't have that clutch stop, and they had it. It was right there in front of them on Sunday against the Browns. It's just sometimes it's the unlucky bounce of the ball, and it seems like whenever the Ravens lose a game, it's like they beat themselves. It's sometimes it's it can be really fluky, and you don't you use the word fluke because that kind of makes people seem like you're making excuses. But I mean, honestly, how many times are they going to let a guy? How often are they going to let a guy go 14-14 second half? It's almost unheard of, and then it almost taps your ass even more that you're like, man, this guy had a broken shoulder and a high ankle sprain, and he still did that to us in the second half. So some of it is I want to say like really bad luck, but also it's like, all right, that kind of stuff is not going to happen every Sunday. This happens every once in a while, and like we weren't saying this kind of stuff with the Ravens for about a month, and now it's like they have their one setback, and now like for a large section of the fan base and national media, the sky is falling.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's tough because I was watching the tape, and the Browns in the second half and in the first half, really, to close it out once they started scoring, they just went into 12 personnel and like 7-man protections and gave Watson all the time to throw, and said, it doesn't matter what you're going to throw at us. We're gonna have Deshaun Watson have all the time in the world. And the Ravens really didn't match that intensity. The Ravens really got out physical for that second half and got pretty ran over. And it was disappointing because, I was pretty bullish on the Ravens defense coming into the game. And then you always get brought back down to reality sometimes with this team. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, all I was going to say is the Ravens – I think the Ravens, like the first half, they play this hard-nosed, what I call hard quarters defense, where they really press up and they make the other team beat them. And then the second half, they just kind of went into like the soft quarter stuff and just kind of let Deshaun Watson have the middle of the field, and it ended up burning them pretty bad.
I kind of think some of the front five defenders, especially some of the older ones, are starting to get burned out by the snap share they've had to carry throughout this year. You have Clowney and Van Noy really carrying a lot of snaps for guys their age, as well as Pierce. Matabike is way up there as far as a 3-tech. I think he's close to 70% on the year. I'll reiterate again, I'd like to add a little bit more manpower there if you can, whether that's Namaka Suh. I don't know if JPP was signed to the active roster or the P squad or if he's still available. One other question before we move on. McDonald's done things a little bit different than previous defense coordinators and previous Ravens in particular, especially with just being pretty much strictly a nickel team and running more zone coverage. To me, when you're trying to protect a double-digit lead, I would rather see more dime and even quarter potentially. Do you think just the schematics, the element has some contributing factor towards blowing leads late?
I would say so. I would say that they're still running the base nickel, and they're still there's two ways you can attack it. Either you try and match up with the Browns on their 12 personnel that they were running and their 6 and 7-man protections and start sending more defenders into the box and at the quarterback, or you maybe switch to a 1-3-7 in a quarter, like you were saying, and go out there and basically like kind of just say, hey, if you want to run the ball on us, fine. It's going to take a lot of time off the clock. We really are going to put the preface on stopping the pass and not having Deshaun Watson throw 14 straight completions against us. So there's a lot of ways to go about it, and I think you do make a fair point. I think their defensive personnel getting late in the games kind of keeps it like they got to pick. I think they got to pick. I think they got to be really aggressive, or maybe put a little more preface on stopping the pass. But when you stay in that middle ground of just staying nickel, there's a lot of leeway that the defense can take.
Yeah, I definitely think sticking to the status quo on both sides of the ball in both halves isn't really the best thing to do. And sometimes you want to see like a mixture of coverages. I feel like sometimes McDonald it's like so dedicated to muddying up the picture post snap for quarterbacks that he sometimes other teams make adjustments too. Hey, they're showing this, in one half, maybe the second half, maybe this might be open and it may be muddying the picture. But how often is a 330-pound defensive lineman really going to, drop underneath, 30 yards downfield? I can probably still make that throw. And the middle of the field was pretty much wide open for them in second half on Sunday. And now John Harbaugh did say that, part of that was, they blew some of their zone coverages, which I totally believe. And that's why I believe that it's going to get better going forward. The more Marcus Williams gets more acclimated, it's one thing to be around, and be practicing, but once you're back in the action, like that chemistry in the back end isn't, and that communication isn't as seamless as it was before he went down. So you saw with during the time he's been out, that Gino and Kyle pretty much had that thing, on lock for about 4 games. His first game back, Gino kind of takes a step back, not a big step back, back, still paid like I think 67% of the snaps, but like just reintegrating Marcus Williams into the back end, I feel like is going to get better as the season goes on, as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. You need the X's and O's, and you need the Jimmys and Joes. It's not one or the other. At some point, the X's and O's can betray you if you don't have it. And I'm going to use that as a segue to preview this Cincinnati game, where the Bengals defense has taken a considerable step back. From last year, I think in large part due to the loss of Jesse Bates. They are 29th in run defense DVOA. They are 26th on third down, and they're allowing the number one most explosive play compared to the Ravens gaining the most on offense. So go ahead and break that down while I let my dog out real quick.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Jesse Bates and Von Bell. That was like the thing that everybody was pointing to that's potentially their weakness coming into this year. You go from having that veteran back end duo with those two seasoned guys, and then now you have Nick Scott and Dax Hill, and it's just like you kind of knew that, okay, if there's going to be an Achilles heel to that defense, that was going to be it. That's where teams were going to target. That's where they was going to take the longest time to to build that camaraderie in the back end. And like I said, it hasn't been nowhere near as a seamless transition as they were hoping. It's been something that opposing teams have been taking advantage of throughout this year, and even Lamar did back in week 2.
Definitely. It's tough because I liked Daxton Hill coming out. I liked Jordan Battle coming out, who's their third safety there. But to this point, they haven't really played up to snuff. I think Dax Hill does have 2 picks on the season. He has about 40 solo tackles or so. So I don't know what the PFF grades are for him. But as of now, I think it's been a big weakness for them. And I think the Ravens really should scheme up some deep shots here this game. And to the point I was making earlier with the 6 or 7 man protection, let's get out there, give Lamar some time to throw. And if they're gonna scheme up a deep shot, I want everything go like it's weird. Like Lamar's deep right passing numbers aren't as good as his deep left passing numbers. He's like one of the best deep left passers, but like deep right, his numbers aren't the greatest. So if the Ravens do scheme up a deep shot, I wouldn't mind a post going from right to left or whatever kind of route you want to run on the left side of the field. But I think that that's potentially an advantage that they can take advantage of this game. But no Hendrickson's out there. Excuse me, no Hubbard. And it's tough. I mean, the Bengals are allowing they're number 30 in rush defense in the league. So the Ravens should have their way, but it's Thursday night. It's sloppy. People are out. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
I think the injury situation is pretty much washed. The Ravens are down Stanley, they're down Hubbard, and then the Ravens are down most likely Marlowe, and they're out Higgins. So kind of a wash. I think the big difference is Awuzie came back down to earth. He was playing out above his head the last year or two, and Aruma's great tactician, but again, you need the players.
Yeah, when you don't have those veteran safeties in the back end, it's really like you don't have like your point about Awuzie, like you don't have that confidence that you're going to always have that consistent help, or that the guys in the back end always have your back, because you guys have that, I won't say hive mind, but like you have better chemistry, and you get better trust in guys in the back end who have more years and more years under their belt, and especially in that Lou Anarumo system. I feel like that was I wouldn't say the downfall of their defense, but I said, like to my point earlier, it's just something that they had to overcome this year. And it's really shown itself in all three, in both the pass and run defense for those guys, because Von Bell is a real tone setter for those guys too in the run game.
Definitely.
Yeah, so if you're ready, we'll flip it over to the other side of the ball. I think there's 2 pretty marquee matchups or key matchups. You detailed them both in an article yesterday, Josh. The obviously OA versus Zeus Jr. Direct competition there because he was used with the same exact pick. The other one is Jamar Chase against Stevens, and probably Rock Ya-Sin as well. All 3 of those players kind of fit the same physical mold in a way.
Yeah, those are matchups I'm really looking forward to. Like everybody remembers the Rocky Sin choke slam on Jamar Chase. I just feel like like with T Higgins out, I just don't know if Tyler Boyd's going to be that guy that he's been in the past. It's been, and really step up as the number 2 receiver. And just because I just feel like they did such a good job of neutralizing Jamar Chase in week 1 that even with that, and that was still without Marlo. So I have all the faith in Brandon Stevens and Rocky Sin and even Ronald Darby if he's called upon. To really keep Jamar Chase in check. And then as far as Owe in Orlando, I just feel like I mentioned in my article yesterday, Owe's the kind of guy, he's the kind of rusher that always gives you guys like, Orlando Brown, who aren't the most fleet of foot problems. If you can get upfield real quick on a guy like Orlando Brown, you can pretty much beat him around the court. We've seen it so many times, even with the Chiefs, and at times this year with the Bengals. When he's always had problems dealing with speed rushers.
Definitely, yeah. I think Owe should have his way. Owe really should have his way. Orlando Brown has not been up to contract this year. From a lot of things I've seen through all the charts and the pressure charts, and then of course a couple of Bengals fans were pretty disappointed this last game. He kind of got walked, which a lot of tackles are going to get walked by Will Anderson, but he got walked. So going back to last game, like we were saying, Owe made that strip fumble, and then of course. Me and Voss predicted it on the pre-show. We're like, someone always going to win us one of these games. So hopefully it doesn't come down to that tonight. But I think Owe really should have himself a really nice performance, and hopefully he can get maybe 2 sacks and maybe a strip again. But Chase against Rocky Sin and Stevens and probably maybe a little bit of Darby. I really think the Ravens should not let. The Bengals are probably going to move him to slot a little bit and try and see what they can do. They're not just going to stick him on the outside because they have to. He's their only playmaker. They have to move him around. So maybe doubling him with bracketing is definitely key in this game. You don't, Rocky Sin did. We called it Rocky strap. He did strap him that first time, and that was probably the sickest play that he's made this year because all the other times he's been on the bench. But it's tough. It's a tough matchup. And the other matchup I'll go with is Travis Jones and Michael Pierce versus their 2 guards. Their offensive line really isn't that great.
I was gonna say Madubuike and Capo, yeah.
Yeah, so those front 3 guys going up against that offensive interior line, I think that's they can control the line of scrimmage and really set the tone. Like they did last week.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the Houston Texans and Bengals game, but Sheldon Rankins whooped Alex Kappa in that game. 3 sacks. He was working him the whole game. I'm like, if Sheldon Rankins can do that to Alex Kappa, I know Justin Madubuike is going to have a field day. So that's a matchup right there that I feel like could decide the game. I wouldn't say like rather early, but like it could be a constant thing because the best way to pressure a guy like Burrow is right up the middle. So if you can pressure him up the middle and throw off their timing or just even sack them, that'd be great too.
Yeah, just punch him in the mouth, man. Just punch him in the mouth. That's all I want. I want those 3 guys to go out there and just set the tone, set it early. Someone make a disgusting hit on him and set the tone early.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think the matchups, as we break this down, plenty of matchups favor the Ravens here. Of course, tough divisional game. There's also some trends that favor the Ravens. The Ravens are 7-0 in their last 7 home Thursday night games. The Bengals are 0-14 in their last 14 road primetime games, going all the way back to 2012. So obviously only 4 of those are with Joe Burrow, but still I think notable. One trend that maybe doesn't or maybe does, depending on how you feel about regressing back to the mean, since he is plus 10 in turnover differential this year, the Ravens are only plus 1. So maybe that's most likely it's probably going to come down to something like that. And I think we think they have the matchups to generate some takeaways.
Yeah, the Bengals defense has been really relying on takeaways to kind of like limit other teams. You go back to that Buffalo Bills game and just like all the turnovers they forced in that game. We all seen over the past few weeks that Josh Allen has been a turnover machine. So, but yeah, I said as long as the Ravens take care of the ball in this one, they should really have their way with the Bengals defense.
Definitely.
So I think this is pretty much a must-win for both teams in a way. Cincinnati really has their playoff aspirations on the line. And the Ravens don't want to get swept at home by the two Ohio teams after sweeping them on the road. Ravens are favored by 3.5. The total is 46. Score prediction time.
I think it's gonna. I think the Ravens win. Maybe not like necessarily like double digits, but at least by a possession. I just feel like the Bengals will be playing with a lot of pride on their side of the ball. But I do have a feeling that, man, just like in some ways, like I feel like the Browns loss might have been a good thing for them because you never want a team riding too high for too long. Like you want those like snap back to reality moments for you hate for it to come as in the form of another blown double digit lead. But at the same time, like you never want a team riding too high, especially like this point in the season, you want to have that salty taste in your mouth a little bit. And I think it's great that they're playing on a short week, not for injury purposes, but so they can quickly wash that taste out of their mouth. I think there's definitely a world where I can see the Ravens winning by double digits in this game. But I think the Bengals might be playing with a little bit more pride in this one, like kind of like they did in week 2. Like that game was never really. They were never in control of that game. They tied it up once on a Charlie Jones punt return that should have been called back, but whatever. And they tied it again with the field goal. But really, the Ravens were kind of in control of all that in that game. And they had a 10-point lead early in the fourth quarter. I feel like that might be a thing again. This like tonight, well, like the Ravens will have a substantial lead or at least a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter, and Cincy might make it close on the scoreboard, but really the Ravens will be in control of this game from start to finish.
Yeah, to that point, I'm going to go with 20-17 Ravens. I think the Ravens are probably up 20-10 after the end of the fourth quarter, or at end of the third quarter, and like Cincinnati just gets a late score to kind of make it close, but it's not really that close. But the whole bunch of hype. This is finally the first good Thursday night football game. And then it ends. It's probably going to be a slot fest. All these Thursday night games, Voss, we've been predicting them. We've been putting out props and stuff. These are all they're always end up slot fest outside of the Commanders Bears one where there was like 70 points scored.
I feel pretty bullish about this game. I forgot one more trend. Lamar has won his last 6 in a row games following a loss, directly after a loss. So another one pointing in the right direction. McDonald really has Burrow's number. His defense is tailor-made to stop a rhythm-based, accurate, but not necessarily strong-armed nor elusive to buy extra time in the pocket quarterback. It's pretty seamless. And as we detailed in the first part, their defense has definitely declined. And I think the Ravens are motivated to get back on track. Everybody's really excited that they're wearing black uniforms. I'm not sure how much of a difference that makes, but maybe it has a little bit something extra. And I think they look sharp. Second favorite. My favorite's Color Rush, but
that's my second favorite. Color Rush, my second favorite. But black, all black is that's
all black's good. You see, I got the Reed all black over here, but I got Suggs over there. But anyway, so my prediction is Ravens 30, Bengals 17, and I think the Bengals are in a position to potentially close the gap late. But the Ravens defense does make that big play, whether it's a takeaway or even a score. So that's kind of how I see it going. So we'll see how it goes. Any prop bets we like? I like quite a few this week.
I like the over on Keaton Mitchell touches. I think this will be his first 10+ touch game in this week, especially with all the controversy surrounding it. I think the guy gets at least 12 touches between screens and carries. I think he might even get 12 carries alone.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah, I like Keaton Mitchell 100+ yards. I went with it last week and I felt great after the first run and then didn't feel so great I should have cashed out. I had an option like triple my money. I'm like, I'm not cashing. I'm just gonna let it ride. But Keaton Mitchell 100+ yards I think was plus 570 or so. It was really good odds. Actually, no. It's probably more than that. I think it was plus 780, and then him to go over 110 yards was plus 1100. So just, those are fair odds. I like Mark Andrews anytime touchdown as well. I feel like he always has something happen on Thursday night. It makes a big play. So, and then this is my lottery ticket. These aren't my official picks. This is my lottery ticket. So when I go back, I'm like, hey, I got to keep the streak alive. I think last week, I forgot what I did last week, but it ended up happening. My lottery ticket is Odell Beckham anytime touchdown, Justice Hill anytime touchdown, Keaton Mitchell 50 yards, Rashad Bateman 40 yards, Mark Andrews 3 receptions, Mark Andrews 25 yards. And that was plus 4,400. 44,000, excuse me. So $5 wins you 2,200.
There you go.
So that's my lottery ticket for the week.
So quite a few I like here. Bateman anytime touchdown plus 425. I think it's about time. I think there's a emphasis on getting the receivers more involved, and this is the defense to do it against compared to the corners you were playing last week. This is much more manageable. I like Keaton Mitchell over the receiving yard is only 8.5. So pound that one. I like Bateman over 28.5 receiving yards. Definitely an emphasis this week on connecting on some deep shots. So again, I think that's pretty realistic there. Keaton Mitchell over 37.5 rushing yards is I like that one. And then 2 on defense. Jadeveon Clowney plus 124 to go over a quarter of a sack. So essentially, if you get a half sack, you meet that. And Owe as well, plus 160 for that same thing there. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm too optimistic, like I said, but I think the Ravens are going to show up in a big way tonight.
Definitely.
Yeah, you're not alone. I'm right there, lockstep with you, man. I just feel like this might be the kind of win that the Ravens have really wanted over Cincinnati. They played them really well these past 4 times since McDonald's been the coordinator, but they haven't really blown them out. And I feel like this is even on a short week, even with both teams banged up, and the matchups favor the Ravens so well that this could be the game where they really stick it to them.
Yeah, so we'll see how it plays out. Big game, obviously, for the division, and if the Ravens are going to kind of stay in the mix for that always valuable number 1 seed, this is going to be an important one with some of these tough games later on in the season because their schedule is not getting too much easier. Before we wrap it up here and start tailgating, not quite this early, but we do a little segment called the Upset of the Week. A lot of big spreads this week. I missed last week. Who'd I have? I had Jacksonville pulling the upset on San Fran. I couldn't have been more wrong on that one. But anyway, trying to rebound a little bit this week. Yuri, anything jumping out at you, and Josh as well?
I don't know what the odds are, but I like the DTR led Browns beating the Steelers. I just think that the Steelers, they just, like I said, they've been outgated every game this year. I think that the curtain finally comes down on them, and they lose a heartbreaker to the DTR led Browns.
Voss, what was mine last week? You wrote that down, right? It wasn't the Commanders again.
Let me check my notebook here.
Actually, it might have been the Chargers or the Lions.
Yeah, you took the Chargers over the Lions.
Unbelievable. How do you let up 41 points? Unbelievable. That was ridiculous. You go.
Chargers,
I gotta follow you up here.
And your head coach is a whiz kid former defensive coordinator. And it's not like you're not paying guys on defense. You got 2 bookend pass rushers. You got Derwin. You got players. I think that scheme needs to be reconsidered. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, you go. You give your face.
All right. So, again, a lot of big spreads this week. I agree with Josh on the Cleveland, Pittsburgh. I think the Browns are laying 1, so it's pretty much a pick 'em. And if they would have been +1, I would have taken that. But I'm going to the Monday Night Football Super Bowl rematch. Both teams coming off a bye, Eagles and Chiefs in Arrowhead. Always tough to win in Arrowhead against Mahomes. But I think objectively speaking, 1 through 53, Philadelphia is considerably more talented than the Chiefs. So I will take the Eagles +3 for my upset of the week.
Yeah, I like that.
Thinking here because I'm trying to think back to these games that I had picked out. Man, I'm gonna follow you up, Voss. I'm gonna take the Eagles. I'm gonna ride with you. I just think that they're just a better team. They're just a better team, and that Chiefs offense, I don't know, it's not feeling it.
I mean, their whole defense is based on Chris Jones, but they're going up against an elite offensive line, and I think, Philly has a lot of matchups. So, but Reed is tremendous coming off a bye too. So it should be a really good game. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I definitely think that like Philly's secondary in particular has been susceptible to the pass this year, but the Chiefs is like outside of Kelsey, man, they just don't have the horses this year to take advantage of that matchup in the secondary. And I'm pretty sure Andy Reid off of bye is gonna have some things schemed up to try to take advantage of that Eagles secondary, but I just don't think they have the receivers, except outside of Kelsey, to really maximize that matchup.
Yeah, and then more time to assimilate Bayard too, to also help try to take away that middle of the field. So, I think that's pretty much all we got. Josh, really appreciate you joining us. We'll have to do this again, maybe later on again in the season. Tell everybody where they can find your work.
Same place they can find yours, man, on BaltimoreBeatdown.com. I am a full-time sports reporter up here in Anchorage, Alaska for Anchorage Daily News, but all my Ravens content can be found at BaltimoreBeatdown.com.
And your handle?
It's just this Josh Reed 907.
Josh Reed 907. All right, Yuri, what else, man?
Lot H tonight.
Lot H.
5:30.
Time, Lot H.
Still game time. I'll be there. Basically, everybody you can think of on Ravens Twitter that you can think of right away, like the general people, the larger people, they'll be there. Engraven, Spencer, all of them, Ramey. Be a good time. So go ahead, stop on by Lot H. You won't be able to drink if you don't have a ticket, but you can still stop by and say hello.
There you go. Wish I could join you, but I have to probably edit Josh's articles and get them published after the game's over.
Yeah. I'll be publishing that rookie report. Probably only gonna be 3 guys suiting up tonight.
No doubt. So, all right. Well, key game, I think, could be kind of tilt your season one direction or another. Yuri, bring home a W for us. I got to keep your. Did you go last week?
No.
Okay, so your streak's still alive.
My streak's still alive.
All right.
It was last second, and I saw the tickets for the Browns game were $29. I'm like, and then I'm like, no. I don't want to see the Browns.
Wow, you caused the team to lose the game, but besides that,
I did. Well, start a GoFundMe and start paying me, and we'll start winning games at home. I mean, it's a simple formula. I didn't go to the Colts game. I didn't go to the Browns game. And then I'm trying to think of the games last year. I even went to the Tyler Huntley Atlanta game in the 15-degree weather. So
how many in a row? How many Lamar games? You said Lamar finished every.
Oh,
so how many in a row?
I'd have to go back and count.
All right,
but it's at least 12.
Okay, well, keep it going. Keep the streak alive.
I will. So appreciate you for joining, Josh, and we'll see you guys next time.